Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bacon, I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. Oh, we got a bunch of you already. Isn't this awesome? 2023, kicking it off. We are hitting the ground running, as they say. It is going to be a busy, busy year. And, of course, we have the lads coming up after a few announcements. Big Jim's in the house. Lawrence just joined us. And, of course, Jason Barnucz. And up front will be Mike Consul, basically to give a quick announcement in regards to the Winter Fish Fest. And what an announcement it is, especially when it comes to some of the prizes that I've already picked up for you anglers, you participants. It's going to have a different look. There is going to be a new focus, which is basically an old focus. We're just getting back to our roots, but a huge, huge emphasis on family, because that's what CFN has always been about and will always be about. So happy New Year. Hope everybody had a fantastic holiday. I see Bruce is with us. How you doing, Adele? Barry's in the house. Sally, nice to see you. James Shembry, yeah, baby, got a bite. Corey, nice to see you. Of course, C4 Lures. Richard Dunlop is with us. Lloyd, as always, happy to see you. Steve Shaw, Sonia, how you doing? Tony's with us. Kevin, Big Kevin, how you doing, my friend? Jason, as I mentioned, is backstage. Terry's in the house. Ed McKenzie, how's the knee, bud? Hope your knee is healing up. I know over the Christmas holidays, Ed had kind of an uncomfortable holiday. Needless to say, reconstructive surgery on a knee will do that to a person. But hope Ed is mending up nicely. Maddie's in the house. Love you, brother. How's the sauce? Eric is here. We got a whole bunch of you. Brad Norris, we'll be getting to you in a big way real soon, Brad. Big shout out to Brad and Pal Castings, as we will describe a little bit later into the podcast. Bob's in the house. Nice to see you. Well, let's get right to it, because we do have a lot to get over and some quick announcements. They're not going to be great details, so we're going to just quickly go over it. As I said, hope everybody had a great holiday. Hope everybody had a healthy holiday. Hope you got what you wanted from Santa. And if ice is what you were wishing for, you're like me, you're still waiting. You got nothing but coal. Big shout out to Sarah Gillis, who, of course, won our Boxing Day prize. It was our December giveaway. Fish like a Bueller for Christmas. So if you didn't get ice, hopefully you got what else you wished for. And in Sarah's case, she did. She got quite an assortment of tackle. That tackle box, it was over 50 pounds if it was an ounce. Darn thing, I tell you. The poor gal put it on the scale just to measure it. Her chin just dropped. She's like, you got enough money to pay for this? Anyway, it got out there. Big shout out to all who participated and generously donated to that prize pack. Sarah, I am proud to say, received it today and will be opening it shortly when she gets home from work. Of course, as I said, big shout out to the Bealers who helped out, and of course, all of our incredible sponsors that we tagged in that post. And again, going forward in the new year, we are certainly happy, of course, to have some very familiar faces return to the mix. Of course, I can't say enough about Horwood Lake Lodge, which we will be getting to, and the 5th annual CFN retreat. Handlebars, Muskie Lures, of course, River Reaper Fishing, True North Baits. Jamie has helped out in a big way, and of course, James Meager. Tell you, wait till we see his prize pack for the Winter Fish Fest. Ugly Boys Baits. Bruce is on here tonight. We're going to be having dinner tomorrow. We'll go over some of the details of the Winter Fish Fest and a whole bunch of things, as well as the CFN retreat. Outdoor Flavors is back on board. As I mentioned, Brad Norris from Pal Cassie's has helped out in an immense way when it comes to the Winter Fish Fest. So big shout out to Brad and Pal Cassie. And of course, Shimano is back on board. They are going to be supplying all of our prizes, or at least a good number of them anyway, for our spring edition. So look forward to that. And thanks to Shimano. And of course, I can't say enough about these folks. Andre and Tracy up at Camp McIntosh. Huge shout out. Thank you to those folks. And as we already posted today, there is the OFC Nation /CFN retreat that's going to be happening in September. We'll get to that as well. So stay tuned. There is, as I said, lots to discuss. Again, this is the theme for 2023. We're going to get back to the focus on the family. Big shout out to Walter for the graphic. Everybody's liking it. And the fact is, I love everybody's sharing it. That if there's anything that we truly appreciate here, especially the editing staff, is when you share stuff like this. They take the time to put stuff like this together. It looks awesome. It defines us. And of course, when you guys share it, all it does is create the momentum and it gets the message out. So a big focus on the family. And of course, our honorable mention for January, of course, was the Demers. And the Demers family, they're up in Iroquois Falls. That is all of his kids. Alan has 4 children. Young, I think it's Aaliyah. She's there in the pink. She's been fishing since she was 5. And as I said, what we are doing as a legacy group is we're going out and we are scanning social media. We're looking at all the stuff that gets sent to us in the inbox. Any of the posts that are shared or the Canadian Fishing Network is tagged in. We want to further your efforts. So what we are going to be doing on your behalf is reaching out to a tackle store that you like to frequent, something, local that you use on a regular basis. We're going to reach out to that tackle store and we're going to say, you know what, this is on CFN. And so, as I said, we are waiting for Alan to let us know what the tackle store, we're going to do this every month. When it's a focus on family and stuff like this, I'll tell you, this is one unselfish adult to bring 4 kids out on the hard water. And not only that, but catch fish like this, that is a true mentor to our community, to our CFN brotherhood and sisterhood. When you have this kind of devotion to bring kids out on the hard water, keep them entertained, and catch fish like that, big shout out to you. And we'd like to help you along because, as I said, I can't imagine buying tackle for 4 kids. So we have a sponsor that would like at this stage to remain nameless, but they have helped out in a huge way. And we are, as I said, going to contact the tackle store on behalf of the Demers, and we will e-transfer up a gift card so that we can get them some much needed tackle to enjoy even more family fishing. So again, you don't really have to do anything than what you just saw. There's some other stuff that we'd love to see taken to the next step. If you'd like to do videos, maybe there's a routine that you share. Maybe there's games that you do, snacks, special kind of cooking that you do out on the ice. As I said, our legacy members have got their nose to the grindstone, and they are going to be sniffing out you families and some of the lengths that you go to further the passion of angling, passion for angling within the family. So stay tuned to that. Of course, Mike's going to be up in a sec. We're going to be talking about the Winter Fish Fest and all the good things in regards to that. But before we do, of course, I can't go any further without mentioning some of our CFN retreats. Of course, a big shout out to Camp McIntosh. We shared this today. Our expected arrival is going to be September 22nd. Our departure will be the 24th of September. If you want to stay there a little bit earlier, get a hold of Tracy here and, of course, Andre, the 2 owners of this wonderful establishment. We're going to be up there as an OFC Nation event. And again, we want you folks to enjoy fishing like this. Those who went last year, you know exactly what I mean when it comes to the kind of fishing that you can enjoy. Mike will come on here and talk real quickly about that as well, as we will with the Winter Fish Fest, because they have offered up a prize for the Winter Fish Fest as well. So again, big shout out to Camp McIntosh. But again, that's September 24th. September 22nd to 24th. Please get in touch with the good folks over at Camp McIntosh. I'm sure Steve behind the scenes is sharing the link. So by all means, reach out to them, get your place booked, get your bed booked, because as of right now, half the camp. So there's that. Again, another camp that is half full, and this is going to be our 5th annual CFN retreat up at Horwood Lake Lodge. The dates are August 13th, which is the travel day up there. The official start is the 14th. For all those who have come up in the past, they understand the need for a travel day, because for some, it is a bit of a trek. So the 14th to the 19th is the week. I am so happy to announce that the beautiful people that are the Renkies, Doris and Warren, they've managed to keep the price the same as last year. I don't know how they did that. I know they did that for us CFNers. As it is right now, it's half full. There's some surprise guests that are going to be showing up there, perhaps. So again, if you want to show up and have a fishing adventure of a lifetime and enjoy some great fish, some great fun, and some fantastic memories, by all means, please join us. That would be absolutely fantastic. As I said, it is half full already, so do not delay. If you want to go up there and spend some time with some incredible people like these folks here, that's our first. This is our second. That's our third. And there was last year's, as I said, diehard group. We love them all. And as I said, we would love to see you up there as well. Big shout out, as I said, can't thank the folks that are returning enough as partners and sponsors and helping us through all of our all of our events and providing some generous prizes. And Mike and I will discuss that right now as I bring Mike in. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Happy New Year to all CFNers. Happy New Year to you, Scotty.
Absolutely, to you as well. And a new year it is for you and Merle.
New baby girl, MJ,
yes,
born
absolutely.
December 16th. So best Christmas gift in the world.
That's it. The gift of life, as they say. So good on you, Mike. And of course,
I'm going to buy her a rod shortly.
There you go. Fantastic. A new CFNer we have. So, Mike, real quick, obviously we could talk at great length about some of the details, but we'll do that in some of the coming weeks when it comes to the Winter Fish Fest. I'm so proud to announce that we have a Winter Fish Fest. There's been lots going on behind the scenes. Mike has been working feverishly to get it all up and running. And of course, courtesy of POW Castings, we've been picking up some prizes along the way. This is a really cool tackle bag, Mike, that we have as a prize. And of course, what else do we love giving out but combos? Hey, and they're already tied. They're already strung. So you don't have to worry about a thing. All you need is your FG knot or a swivel and a fluorocarbon leader, and away you go. So big shout out to POW Castings for this incredible and generous donation. We'll get into the prizes. We'll make sure that we make posts so you folks know exactly what you're looking for. And of course, I can't thank James Meager enough. I think this is about $300 worth of Meag's jigs. So again, shout out to James and the Meager Lures family for their generous donation. I tell you, Mike, I'm so tongue-tied. There's so much to talk about, so much to go over. I'm going to let you take the helm for a little while.
Good. I was supposed to cue you up to show those prizes, but I know you're excited to show them.
Buddy, I'm so excited. The fact that we're able to share with our community as we always do, we can't do it without the good folks out there that are generous. And as I said, these tackle packs, we are going to get them to grow with the Ugly Boys baits, and I'm sure other companies that are going to jump on board as well. But please, Mike, take it away.
All right, so if you share my screen, that'd be awesome. Just want to say hi to all those saying hi. Manny, what's up? Sally, Erica, Richard, and anyone else I missed who's watching live, thank you for joining us tonight. We are talking about the Winter Fish Fest happening February 1st, which is just around the corner. So just a couple things. We have, when we put it together, we have 9 prize draws, but now we have way more than just these 9. So let me just explain to you. I'm going to only be on for about 3 minutes because we have a jam-packed show, but you'll be able to submit your catches either directly to Facebook or on the My Catch app. In the next coming weeks, I'll reveal more details on how to do each one, but know that you can go directly to Facebook or on the My Catch app. For example, let's say you go out, you catch 15 perch. That's 15 ballots into one of these 9+ draws. Let's say you catch 15 perch and 8 crappie, either on the same day, different day, doesn't matter, as long as it's February 1st to 28th. That's 23 separate ballots into all of these draws. Maybe you're lucky enough to catch a couple pike as well. So as many fish as you catch, you can enter every single one. The more fish you catch, the more ballots you have, and the greater chances to win some amazing prizes that Scotty has already mentioned. And on top of that, we have a family portion, and I'll talk about that next week. But what do you win with all these ballots? We have tons of prizes, like Scotty said. 3 days, 2 nights at the beautiful, exquisite, remote Camp McIntosh. Get your ballots in because you can win a free trip to Camp McIntosh. We got a mystery prize pack. Thank you to Pow Casting and thank you to Meigs. We have some of those prizes that Scotty showed you there. We have a kids prize pack. So any kid 17 years and under, basically, if you don't need a license, all your ballots will be put into a special prize draw. We have a CFN zip hoodie that we're going to give away. We have a ice safety kit. We have a face mask. We have some bait to go. We have a bait to go bucket and some outdoor flavor seasoning. And of course, we have our family prize pack. So if you want more details about how you enter, all you got to do is go to cfnfishoff.com and all the details are there. Remember, basically any fish you catch from February 1st to 28th to be eligible for all of these prizes. And on top of that, we'll be having some weekly giveaways because during tournament time, you can join Scotty and I every Tuesday during tournament time. And during these tournament little broadcasts, we'll be doing prizes on top of these, some weekly giveaways for those who have entered some fish. So join us Tourney Tuesdays come the first Tuesday in February. Like I said, all the details are at cfnfishoff.com. What are the rules? How do you register? How do I get in on the family prize? As well as how do I enter a fish? Just go to cfnfishoff.com. And as you notice, we also have our hoodies that you can now order. If you order them before February 28th, you'll have them before the spring fish off. And I have a whole box with me that we're going to ship out tomorrow. So those who have ordered them already, you're going to get your batch. But if you want the third batch, make sure to get your order in before February 28th. So that's it for now, Scotty. Winter Fish Fest. Share the details with your friends. As many fish as you can catch, increase your chances because we got some great prizes.
Absolutely awesome, Mike. Just a Herculean effort as always. Again, we want to remind everybody, depending on ice, obviously open water and hard water will be allowed in this tournament as it always is. So stay tuned to that. And the best part about it, if you want to submit your fish into the My Catch app, as well as Facebook, you can do either. So again, we've listened to our community, we've listened to our participants and our anglers, and we have reached out, and Mike and I have managed to do some brainstorming, and we have allowed both platforms to run simultaneously. We have incentives for using both, but the big one, as I said, I'm really excited about is, of course, the Facebook side of things. And anybody who wants to reach out to me after the show, by all means, I am here to answer questions because the Facebook edition has got kind of a cool little torque to it. So
yeah, again, we'll talk about that next week, how to join the Facebook side. But we got My Catch prizes. We got Facebook prizes, and then we got prizes for those who join both. But whichever way you want to enter, all you got to do is catch some fish.
Sounds like a plan, buddy. Well, listen, thanks so much for doing this, and we will see you next week, Mike.
All right. Happy New Year, folks.
Absolutely. So that's Mike Console, of course, at the Winter Fish Fest. Upcoming next is our big buddy and good friend, Big Jim McLaughlin. See, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm tongue tied. Anyway, Big Jim McLaughlin is on after this. Just 1 second.
Here's your song, Scotty.
Well, I am, buddy. I am so excited. I tell you, Jim, it's not often I get tongue-tied like this, but wow, we got so much going on. And again, there's just so much, there's so little time that we got to get right to it. And unfortunately, when you try to cram everything into that funnel, something's got to give. And it was my speech tonight. But anyway, needless to say, Jim, I'm back on track. Always nice to see you, my friend. Hope you had a great holiday.
Yeah, it was what it was.
Yeah, that's
what happened to the grandkids. The rest never made it, so they said, there was weather issues and all kinds of crap. So we'll wait a little bit there. We'll get it together. Tammy's got all the prizes still sitting under her presents. I'm so hung up on prizes with you talking prizes.
Right.
But she's got them all under the Christmas tree still. Although the decorations are off.
Yeah.
We got a little Christmas tree this year. It's about probably 4.5 feet tall, 4 feet tall.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm gonna rope a brick into it and throw it out here in the. And you're not supposed to do that. I'm not throwing it in an irrigate or in a navigation channel. I'm just gonna throw it in the dock.
Now, speaking of navigation channels, of course, your water's up, as you mentioned.
Yeah, it's right over the back here. It's the first time I've seen it that high since we've been here in the winter. But we had 30, 40 centimeters of snow. Before that, in the big storm, the day before, we had 87 millimeters of rain.
Unreal.
Like it was a deluge. There was places on the way to Gan where I brought to that time the Hortons there.
Yeah.
Underneath the train bridge, there was gravel this deep on the road, and the road was washed out for about 150 yards on one side, just completely all the tar all caved in, like the stuff you see on the television when there's floods.
Unreal.
It was in our own backyard, eh? But no, it's up there. The buoys there up against the dock there. The boats against, they're sticking right out of the ice in the air, higher than the dock. So the ice is right up. And I think there was a lot more ice out there than I thought.
Yeah.
Because it never melted, but it's all open out in the main flow and everything. The St. Lawrence is wide open again. I'm talking wide open. There ain't even a piece floating by.
Okay, so listen, for some of us down here in the South who are jonesing to get some safe hard water, and of course, it's sporadic. You can go up to Nipissing. I've heard that there's certain areas up there that are safe. There's some areas that we've heard, perhaps maybe on the north side of Schoolgog. Again, these are all rumors. They aren't substantiated. At the end of the day, when in doubt, sput it out so that you know yourself that it's safe. Don't rely on anybody's reports. Do it yourself, and that way you can stay safe. But Jim, in the meantime, as I said, for us that, we have all kinds of time on our hands. And thanks so much for all of the sharing of content that you do. But for folks like myself, or maybe some others that are watching, are there any YouTube channels or resource bases that you go to sort of, spend the time, bide the time until we do get some safe harbor?
I've usually got so much to do that I don't have that much time, but I really keep an eye on the Lindners.
Yeah.
and angling buzz and stuff like that. And I mean, these guys have reports that are done daily by guys that are making their living in the ice, like in the fishing business. We're not talking about guys that go out ice fishing on the weekend. These guys, are insured up the yin yang. They know it. They do it. They've done it for years, and they have them doing the reports on the fishing. I mean, they don't get down to giving GPS coordinates because that's just people ask them where's the GPS coordinates for this, and like get up from your computer, walk over, find a nice wall like this, and bang your head on it about 5 times, and like just figure out what happens when somebody recognizes that there's a tower in the background with someone's fishing, and the next day there's 50 boats sitting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing. Social media has, and I know for a fact that it has devastated some areas.
Yeah.
The amount of fish that have been pulled out, like people don't realize how good the average angler is now, and he really is able to catch a lot of fish. You're not going to kill lakes, but you certainly put a beating on them. And when you see guys posting pictures and they say, "Oh, well, there was 4 of us out today, and we're allowed to catch 100 perch, so we caught 400 perch." And like they've got them laying on the ice, and they're like this deep, and I can't fathom that. I'm sorry. I know you're not breaking the law. I know you're not doing anything wrong, but it comes back to that old moral thing.
Yeah.
That you have to look to the future. Here's me it goes down here last spring, like I told you about filling up the bucket with the crappies. I'm looking at the bucket, and I'm done, and I felt bad and put them back in.
Well, at the end of the day, too, when you see those posts, and I know I've mentioned it before, God bless them, because I wouldn't want to clean all those fish. And I'm sure it's not a shared effort. I'm sure there's like 2 or 3 in the bunch that have the ability to do some nice fillet, and the rest of them just sit back and drink some cold ones. But needless to say,
you really have to be careful. I see people posted here, saying there's safe ice here, but there's ice there. There's I'm fishing here. I'm doing that. But the internet's the problem with that.
Yeah.
Because you're sitting where there's 9 inches of ice, and I'm sitting here where if I drive 15 kilometers, I fall in open water.
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of the problems come from, And I know guys that were fishing north of 7 here this weekend, and some of them found 6-7 inches of ice, and others literally had nothing. And it's a lot cooler north of Highway 7, like up towards Ottawa. I'm only an hour and a half from there, but there's if it says we're going to -6 here, they're usually -10, stuff like that. There's always a difference, and there's just enough to make it change like that. Just like going north, like look at Saskatchewan.
Yes,
guys, in Saskatchewan, why aren't you ice fishing? Well, got no ice. You guys, they're sitting on one of the biggest cold snaps they've had. I think it's since the 50s or something.
Something like that, yeah.
The number of minus days where it's never gone above 0,
And you know what? If you can endure -30-degree weather, you deserve 24 inches of ice. And you know what? God bless you all. And as I said, we are living vicariously through the Landrys, the Henrys, and a whole bunch of others. Kevin Lone has a great comment up here that I want to get to, Jim. And you being sort of a coarse fish connoisseur, when it comes to catch and release, and Kevin is great at teaching.
Good for you, Kevin.
Great at teaching his kids all about catch and release. But at what point, when you're keeping crappie, when you're keeping perch, even pumpkin seed or sunfish, what are you keeping? What are you throwing back? Is there a certain size, Jim, that you like to target as opposed to releasing?
Well, the science on it is that you shouldn't be keeping the biggest fish. That's what it is. And I've talked to Gens and Brodal about this, and there's a lot more research on panfish been done over in Minnesota and Wisconsin and places like that, like really good university studies on stuff. But they believe that there's a hierarchy, and when the population is healthy, they don't produce as many big females. It's just the way nature has it. So if you start keeping all the big fish, the majority of them are females. Then all of a sudden you can put a herd on. Like I've told you about the little lake I found over here where we caught all the 10 and 12-inch pumpkin seeds and bluegills, and it was absolutely incredible. We never kept those fish. We just caught them, and the fish went like this.
Yeah. And
we didn't keep them. They weren't killed. They didn't die. You know what I mean? There was no stress. There was, they're 8 feet underneath the ice. They go around in a few circles. You pop them out, unhook them, drop them back down. those fish are never the same when they get fished like that, when they get pressured. And if I'm keeping pumpkin seeds and bluegills, I'm looking for those 8 to 9 inch fish, maybe max. Maybe even like not to 9, like 8.5. I'll leave those bigger ones up there, and God forbid you get lucky and you catch a 10-incher. And so many people tell me that they catch 10-inch fish, but put it on a ruler and you'll realize your fish is 8.5. It's not 10.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things. They catch one that's a really big one and they just think it's a giant, but it's not. I remember the first time I got one that was just shy of 11, and I pulled it out of the hole, and I was in awe. You've heard me talk about it. Like I called my buddy John. I couldn't, and I had seen lots of big ones, but nothing like this. Had the big bump on its head, had a gut like me. Like, I mean, it was, it was a big fish. And for crappies, once again, 9.5 to 11 inches. Maybe the odd one that's 12 or something, or but not, if you're having a tough time getting them and you're only getting a few. But I see guys and they put up pictures and they've got all these 14, 15-inch crappies and they're keeping them.
Yeah.
And that just catches up. It really does. And, it's just because these places are pounded, once they see a person and they post about it. I mean, I've had it happen to me. I had it happen to me on the Big Reno.
Yeah.
I mean, 30 years ago, nobody ice fished out there. There was the odd guy sitting on a bucket on Friday afternoon, and then all of a sudden they were out there. And I mean, wherever I went on the lake, they followed.
Yeah.
Because I had learned how to ice fish. I had learned how to do it efficiently because.
You mean the fish followed you or the anglers?
Both, apparently.
So, to Kevin's point, I think it's easy for us all here to beat our chest and say, practice, catch and release. But at the end of the day, some folks like to keep fish.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
If we are keeping fish, and again, as Jim said, there's nothing wrong with it. We should be taking that next step and educating anglers on what fish to keep. At the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that big fish produce big fish. So as Jim said, don't keep the biggest fish. Just keep a certain size that, Jim or maybe your local biologist could suggest there is a larger number of than, say, another size. And at least then you're targeting the right kind of fish. But great question, Kevin. Really appreciate that. Of course.
And you should only, where's, that's a really good point about the new technology. But when you think of how many fishermen are out there and how many people have $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 to spend on this stuff, and the people that have it are the ones that are most likely to put the fish back in.
It's true.
I mean, I've seen that. There's no debating that. It's a fact. I mean, you talk to these guys, the vast majority of them put the fish back in. Might allow them to stay on top of them and catch them a little bit faster, but the vast majority are really good anglers. Don't keep a lot of fish.
No, but as we have talked about, Jim, Dave, Chong's been on here about the electronics. It certainly has upped our game. We have an incredible advantage against the fish that we've never really had before. And when it comes to catch and release, that's why I'm saying we need to take that message one step further and instruct those anglers that do want to keep the odd fish, which size they need to keep and which size they need to emphasize throwing back.
True. Hey, I know you're rushed more for time today. Two things. When you mentioned about CFN with the family this year, I never thought of CFN as anything but.
I'm so glad you said that, Jim, because
I looked at it and I thought to myself, so what's the big deal?
It is.
It's what they do every week. It's what they do all the pictures I see of families and kids, and there's, very seldom will anything go by that doesn't have, like you see Jay out there with his son all the time. You see, all the guys, I can't think of them now, but right across the country, there's always somebody with the family involved in it, or it's a husband and wife, or two brothers, and stuff like that. It's just really, really cool to see that. So I always thought of it as that. I think it's a great idea. It doesn't hurt to put it out there.
You know what? At the end of the day, Jim, it's about reestablishing our grassroots and our foundation. What we basically built CFN on. It is a family within a family, but it's all of the Lowen type families, the Barnucz, the McLaughlins, the Lawrences and Shaws. I mean, there's a whole host of them. But at the end of the day, what we want to do now is those folks, and I know you and I talked about it on the weekend. as a father, maybe you only get a weekend to get out and enjoy fishing, right? You have 4 kids like Alan does. Those 4 kids go with him almost every time he goes out fishing. And yourself, trying to keep 4 kids entertained, trying to keep lines not tangled, enough snacks. You are basically, even though you're their father, you're like a guide, and you're
donating your weekend to your kids.
100%.
Taking away your own time, which you have to do sometimes because you're a father.
Yeah.
And I know, like, when we used to go fishing with the kids, there was a lot of times where I wouldn't even get to pick up a rod, or if I did, I'd bring them up and they'd be catching sunfish on a weed line with little ice jigs and stuff, and then I'd stick a fish on a jig and hit the free spool, let out about 10 feet of line, float away from it, and say to one of the kids, "Here, hold this rod for me here. I got to check the worms." And of course, the kids right away, you tell them, "Don't turn the handle." Right away, what do? They turn the handle, and there's already a 2-pound largemouth there. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I've done that to people too that didn't even realize it when I was guiding. They're having a tough time because when you get a person that doesn't fish much, kids or fish can be tough sometimes.
100%. And for no other reason, we want to take that one step. Again, we can all talk the talk, but CFN wants to walk the walk. And when it comes to family fishing and the focus on the family, we've managed to land a very generous vendor of ours, and they're going to help us celebrate that focus on the family by, donating something generously to a local tackle company that they can then go spend a little bit of money on themselves. Because as I said, we know the effort, Jim, you just mentioned it, that goes into taking your kids fishing. And we want to see more of it. So in doing so, we're going to reward you for that in a small way. But as I said, it's a gesture that I think both ourselves and our vendor strongly agree with. And as I said, I think it's just going to go.
You saw when you came down with Steve to the event here on the town dock that I do, like in my backyard.
Yeah.
You saw all the guys show up, the tournament guys, because I asked them to come.
Yeah.
From Renegade and from Belleville, those guys came. Trenton, they came from all over the place, and they're down on one knee. The father's with the kid. The father doesn't know anything about fishing. The kid wants to go fishing, and they're helping him, and that just makes me feel good when when it's all said and done. It's just like it's awesome. It's
100%.
absolutely awesome.
And I would love to be able to reward all of those people, like those absolutely generous volunteers that come out and help with your event, Jim. I can't say enough about those folks. Those are top shelf gems of the earth, and we need more of them in our community. And as I said, this is just a small initiative that CFN has undertook. All the legacy members sort of voted on it. It was absolutely unanimous. We don't mind spending a little bit of money if it's just going to hammer home the emphasis of focusing on the family. So again, thanks for saying what you did. Really appreciate that, Jim. Now, great news in the Just Fishing world and family. I heard the latest edition is almost ready.
Yeah, well, it's done. It's just we've gone with a new person, a new web person, and we've gone to a much better, I don't know what to call it, we call it platform or whatever, and the server and all that. So it's just taken a little bit extra time to get it up there. We're a couple of days behind, but it'll happen. Good thing there's no ice anyway in Eastern Canada to speak of. Like up in the north there's a bit more, but it's definitely going to be out there, and it'll be well worth the wait. But one of the things that I thought was pretty cool, what we talked about earlier today. Where are you going to be at the end of February, Scotty?
Well, you know what? I'm hoping, knock on wood, next door to you, and I'll be doing lots of that. Jim, you up? You ready to go? Let's go. Can't wait, my friend.
The days of that are over.
I can't wait for that, dude. As I said, we're going to be at the Ottawa, is it the Sportsman or Boat Show?
The Ottawa Boat and Outdoor Show.
And I know Steve is going to share the link, but yes, Jim, I can't thank you on behalf of CFN enough for allowing us the opportunity, because I do believe all the income free, all of the CFNers are going to be there in large numbers. We've got
we got the big pool for the kids.
Yeah.
And then at the opposite end, the adults can cast too, so we can embarrass the guys that come on here and say, "I'm a crackerjack caster." We can embarrass them at the other end. We've got
Jim. I am a crackerjack caster. That's where I got the license to cast, was from the crackerjack box.
Crackerjack box. We got Steve Barnett basically runs the adult end of the pond with the casting and keeping the score and everything. And I mean, he's won the Renegade Championship a couple of times, I believe. He's won probably 6 or 8 Renegade tournaments over the last 20, 25 years. And he's just a dynamite angler. He's a great guy. And he's done it ever since the first time we ever had it at the Sportsman Show in Ottawa, right downtown at Lansdowne Park there. When Minto used to back it, he's been there with us. And we've got one target that it's almost fixed.
Wow.
It's really tough to get it in because it's above the surface of the water. It's one thing to get something, even I have trouble with it. It's one thing to get something in when it's on the surface, like a ring or something.
Yeah.
When you put something this far in the air,
yeah,
changes the whole dynamics. I don't know whether it's, there's a word for it in science, I'm sure, but it changes the whole thing. It's almost impossible. Well, not impossible because guys do get it, but it's really, really cool to watch them. They get up there. The best ones are the guys that we get to. They're with their girlfriend and they don't want to do it, and then they end up doing it with their girlfriend, and the girl beats them. And she doesn't fish. That's the good thing.
Well, I'll tell you, as I said, Steve, thanks so much for sharing the link. That is the link if you want to find out more about the Ottawa Boat and Outdoors Show. As I said, there's going to be a bunch of CFNers going to be there. It looks like Eve's going to be there as well as Brad and, of course, Erica. Lawrence
will be there. He has his booth. We have the kids pond in that.
Yeah.
We're going to have CFN right beside us. I'm doing my best to get John Anderson and Lisa Goodyear, who guide on the Ottawa, where they're going to be doing some presentations for us, along with Steve, myself.
Nice.
And a lot of people there, so it should be a great event as usual. It's really nice, because we haven't done that. We haven't been there. It's been a few years, It's
true. It's so true.
Because it got right before when COVID hit the first time.
Yeah.
It got hit. It was literally like a week or two after it was supposed to be,
100%. Yeah. And of course, we can't forget the Spring Fishing and Boat Show, which is, I believe, 2 weekends before, the weekend before.
The weekend before, yeah.
Yeah, the weekend before. Jason Barnucz has eloquently thrown up the link to that. Of course, we are going to be there with OFC and our OFC Nation counterparts. So, yes, we have both shows covered. But I will say this, spending some time with Big Jim and, of course, all you CFNers, I'm really enjoying the idea of the Ottawa show. I think it's a tightly knit, more family-focused event, Jim, I might say.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Right on. Well, listen, Jim, as always, my friend, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for spending, another Monday with us. And listen, everything that we're going to do in 2023 is all about you. And we do have to mention, coming up very shortly, for all of you fly tires that have, graduated into whatever level of fly tying you have, jig tying. Jim's he's gonna put you to the test, and he's given up an incredible prize pack to do just that. So stay tuned. We're going to be announcing that in the coming weeks. But for all those who are doing some fly tying and jig tying on your own, you're going to be able to put your stuff front and center with CFN's giveaway courtesy.
Yeah, that prize, that stuff actually came from a guy who tied flies.
That's amazing, dude.
Absolutely. And like you saw how much stuff there was. There's a whack. There's a little bit of everything.
Tons.
Yep.
Right on, Jim. Have a great night, my friend. We'll catch you on the flip side.
Be safe out there, I'm telling you.
Amen, brother. You heard it first. And last, if you don't, I think I mentioned it to him on the weekend. I was going to go up and check a certain water body to see what the ice was like, and he said, well, make sure you're safe. And I said, well, dude, if I'm not, I don't want to weather the tongue lashing I'm going to get if I don't. So you know what? No worries about that. Lawrence Gunther's up next, right after this.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
Lawrence Gunther's in the house.
How you doing, man?
Good, buddy. And listen, I apologize for not sharing the link. I put it on Messenger, but I didn't press send. It was there. I didn't press send. So I apologize for the delayed response and, of course, rushing around last minute. But regardless, you know what, Lawrence? Thanks for being here, dude. It's a pleasure to see you, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well, my friend. And we had a couple weeks off there. Well, at least I did, with the family and everything going on. It was nice to see grandchildren around here and lots of grandchildren and children popping in and out. It was just a really nice time just to sort of chillax with the family. Yeah, I loved it. Great times for sure.
As much as I'm sure that you chillaxed, as you will say, you've probably been busy gathering a whole bunch of stuff when it comes to what's going on with our fishery, the state of our environment, our water, what have you. But I wanted to start with a news article that was shared. You may not know the details. I know I don't know the details, other than I know what the gentleman was fined. And I have to say this is not a moment where, I want to point the finger at commercial fishing. I don't, because what I feel is I feel horrible for the other commercial anglers that are out there doing it the right way, doing it the way that the laws have laid out. And then you've got this joker who's out there, trying to pull the wool over the M&R's eyes, and he's managed to get himself in some hot water. He has amassed a fine of $55,000, and I don't know the details. It's all alleged. You're guilty when you have to be proven guilty before anything else, but you're innocent until then. And let's follow the rules of the law. But at the end of the day, there's a reason that he was charged. There's a reason that he's been fined. And all I can say is, on behalf of all of the commercial anglers that are doing it the right way, thank you. But I wanted to ask you, Lawrence, when it comes to these fines that are levied to commercial anglers, and I will say this just on our own water, never mind, across the pond and worldwide, is it stiff enough? Are they stiff enough? Because I made a post in our legacy chat that said, I think if this person blatantly did what was done, I don't think they should be allowed to fish ever again. Is that too harsh?
People like this are normally repeat offenders, right? It's like, someone who steals from a store. It's not just a one and done thing. It doesn't work like that. Unless you're a kid, you steal a chocolate bar, you get caught, you have to apologize, you cry, all that stuff. Yeah, there's a good chance you're not going to do it again. But most people that steal and cheat like that, they do it. They're habitual. They're habitual cheaters. So, they get one fine, they get another fine, they get caught again and caught again. They get a reputation. They're known for being this, and then it just becomes a cat and mouse game until each time they're caught. And that's, I think, more of interest to these people as much as it is the money. For sure, the money is, they figured out a way to cheat the system and make some really big undeclared profits, and they get hooked on that. There's no doubt about that, right? When you have that kind of money flowing in, you don't hard to let that go. So I think you can throw the book at them over and over again, but as long as they're walking around out there, they're going to find another way to do it. So that's more reason why we need to have, professional enforcement officials out there working to catch these people, to stay on top of them, right? It's not just, they get a slap on the wrist or they lose their license or lose their boat, or, it's the size of the fine isn't going to stop them necessarily. It's just, they just have to keep getting caught. And at some point, they're not going to have the resources or the ability to continue to do it, right? Their network will be shut down. They'll lose their boat. They'll lose this. They'll lose the other thing. But you really want to throw the book at that, to someone who, a first-time offender, maybe that someone who's just trying to pay off some sort of debt before they lose their house or lose their car, their boat or something, and they're just getting desperate, and they're slipping into that and they get caught, like that kid, who steals a chocolate bar for the first time and then gets caught.
Yeah. It's true. And you know what? At the end of the day, we like to think that folks can somehow correct themselves. And in this case, it is a commercial angler. Corey, I have to say, thanks for sharing this. Commercial fishermen in Oregon, they missed up one time. It's $100,000 fine or 20 years behind bars. And of course, they lose everything. That's how strict they are here in Oregon on commercial. Well, you know what? At the end of the day, is that too severe, or is that just? In the case of this gentleman, Again, he's innocent until proven guilty, but I want to say if it's being posted by the MNR, there's a good chance that he's already been convicted.
Oh yeah, a known
$50,000.
felon, and some of these fines and jail sentences, it can be up to, right. So first offense and second offense, third offense, they're going to throw the book. It's maximum. So it's nice when the judge has that flexibility to sort of adjust accordingly. Like if the first offense they didn't do it, they have a much bigger stick for the next time.
100%.
Yeah.
And in case you don't get a chance to listen to us tonight, you will be able to see this and hear this on Bluefish Radio as Lawrence tapes this every week, and make sure that it's available over on his platform as well. So tune in to Bluefish Radio, and we thank Lawrence for doing that. Lawrence, as we go into 2023, is it a matter of learning from 2022? Or do you think there's more still to learn when it comes to how we treat this environment, how we treat our fish, and maybe how we treat each other?
Well, we spoke about this, the big conference that happened in Montreal just before Christmas, the 2-week conference, 196 countries there on biodiversity and the loss of biodiversity and the threats to biodiversity around the world. And then, unfortunately, you hear people who report on this in the media, and they're talking about fishing and hunting being the biggest threats to biodiversity loss. That may be the case in many countries where there's extreme poverty, and people have to find ways to feed their family, to keep the lights on. They turn to harvesting and selling these wild game, whether it's hunting or fishing, to make a living when they have no other opportunities, no other choices. They'll break the laws and they'll do what they have to do, right? So we see this around the world in extreme cases. It's not necessarily the case in Canada or the United States, but you don't often hear that distinction being made. But it doesn't mean we're off the hook, right? This is in many ways the agreement that came out of the biodiversity 2-week conference in Montreal was pretty epic. And it didn't get a lot of news coverage, unfortunately. But it is sort of an indicator that we need to all be more careful on how we engage with nature to make sure that we're good Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and leave it in better shape than when we find it, right? That we give back in ways, and we're stewards, and we're doing things sustainably, and we're taking that extra effort to make sure we clean up and we report things that look funny and do a little citizen science that way. So yeah, it's in our hands more and more. There's things that are going on out there, buddy, that are things are changing in pretty epic ways, and we gotta stay on top of this and keep it good.
So let me be devil's advocate for just a second. Okay. With chicken prices going through the roof, lettuce going through the roof, gas prices, interest rates, everything going up, without being callous or disrespectful, what do I care about the environment? What do I care about the fish populations when I'm barely making my bills? At the end of the day, the water is going to be the water. The pollution is going to be pollution. I'm not going to make a grand difference in all of this. Why should I care? Why? You know what? No one's helping me pay my bills. No one's helping me, deal with my increase in my mortgage. Why do I care so much about everybody else's water?
It's a good question. And when people get desperate, they think, well, I'll just be, it's just me. I need to take a few extra. I need to feed my family. I need to take care of things, so I'm just going to take a few extra this time. And it's just me, and it's not, it's not going to hurt. But you can be pretty assured that if you're feeling that way and you're experiencing that kind of loss and that kind of desperation because you lost your job, because, interest rates, and you're about to lose your home, and so on and so forth, there's a bunch of other people in the same boat as you, right? Not technically, not physically in the same boat, but you know what I mean? So this is where it gets problematic, because it's never just one person that suffers. And when the economy starts to turn against the working person, right? And it does. It's the people who are working, and going paycheck to paycheck, like many of us, like most of us, that, when something goes wrong, we have to, go, oh my goodness, what do we do now? Right.
Yeah.
And we start to take desperate action. So it's not just one person. So that's something to keep in mind. And again, we have to talk about enforcement, and enforcement has to step up, to make sure that these things don't unravel. We thought it would with COVID, when there was all these job losses and things shut down and prices were going up and shelves were being emptied and people were getting desperate. We thought there was a lot of reasons there for people to go out and poach, but it didn't happen. So I'm optimistic. I think, that Canadians, we will camp more, and that's a fact. We will spend more time in the outdoors with higher prices, higher inflation, less disposable income. We will spend more time outdoors than we do when we have money to take trips to Cuba and Mexico and things like that. So there's going to be more opportunities for us to spoil it. But
And that's exactly what I was going to get to, because at the end of the day, let's be honest, those trips to Cuba, those trips to wherever, are not going to be as prevalent as it once was, maybe in our past. And of course, we're now penny pinching with what's going on in the world. Maybe I'm just old fashioned. I really don't want to go anywhere else. You know what? I love my backyard. I love my country, and I would rather spend my money in house than to go some faraway destination that really, at the end of the day, it's just it's just a paycheck. That I don't know. Anyway,
we see it. We see it with the RV, industry went through a huge boom in the last 2-3 years. It's tapered off now, but a lot of people bought RVs and went camping, and campgrounds got filled up. So they started going off-grid camping on public land, just parking and camping. And you saw a lot of people who just, dump garbage, dump sewage, dump waste, just left things a mess. It is, it's, so there's some learning to do. There's some people that have to learn how to do this stuff properly, and it's up to us to teach them that. And there's some enforcement that has to be done, because it's going to happen. I mean, there's going to be more people camping, more people fishing as the economy goes. So we need to watch things closer, even, for sure.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there is some bad news, and of course, George is here to share both of them with us. But it's always great news when George Morgan shares it. Before you form a lynch mob, almost all angling creel surveys in Ontario over the last several decades shown that between 2% to 4%, so somewhere between 1 out of 50 or 1 out of 25 interviewed anglers, of the anglers were in non-compliance with the angling regulations.
Oh yeah, the regulations are getting more and more technical, right? With slot limits now, and 1 over 4 under, these these machinations of numbers and sizes. It's getting, it's not just 5 fish or 10 fish. It's things are getting technical.
So this is again, at the end of the day, I'm always a firm believer. Keep it simple, especially with our new Canadians, Canadians that don't speak, our 2 major languages. At the end of the day, we got to dumb it down a little bit, because all we're doing by creating so much legislation, so many rules and restrictions, is we're not scaring people into doing the right thing. We're scaring them into not fishing at all. And is that the real message we want to be sending?
No, but why aren't we developing tools to provide this technical information in real time to people? Everyone's walking around out there with a smartphone now. Why can't you load on your OFAH fishing app, and then you go somewhere, you can just click a button and select a species, and it'll tell you exactly where you are based on your GPS, what the season is, and what the slot size is, and the limits are. And even if there's some sort of sanctuary nearby that, okay, you can't go over there during this period of time, but that's off ground, kind of off base right now. This is a no-brainer, right? And they should be also feeding you the information on fish consumption advisories for those species, for that body of water at the same time as well. This should be popping up on your phone, so you can say, well, I can keep these fish, but according to this, I can't bring them home and feed them to my kids. I can eat them myself, or, I shouldn't eat only 1 meal a month, or whatever, right? Even if you can bring 5 home. This is all data that's stored digitally on websites. There's no reason why we shouldn't have an app provided to us that we can get this information in real time and accurate, up to date, current information, a couple clicks away on our phones.
100%. And Corey, great comment. That's why we're here. That's exactly why we're here. We're all mentors. Anybody who's listening, you are an active participant in our angling community as well as CFN, but you are out there doing your job as anglers when it comes to mentoring, educating, and informing those who don't know. They just know they love fishing. They may not know the rules. Should they know the rules? Yeah, absolutely. When they buy a license, they should know the rules. But let's be honest. It's almost, I don't want to say impossible, but it is becoming more difficult for even, sort of the long in the tooth anglers to follow some of the restrictions and, of course, keep up with all the changes. So,
and remember too, there's a lot of people don't have a very high literacy level, right? So, if you look at the latest data, about 24% of adult Canadians read below a grade 6 level.
Yeah.
And I don't think that some of these regulations, if you're reading at that lower level, you're not going to be able to understand what these regulations necessarily. So, and that's new Canadians. 25% of Canadians are new Canadians. So, language barriers there as well. And these regs aren't necessarily available in their own language. So be a bit patient with people. Don't just assume that people are just cheating or stealing because they're being criminal. Maybe they just don't know, and they just they don't have access to the information. So, just try to give it to them in a very non-confrontational way. And if that's not going to work, well, call the enforcement.
100%. And this is a great segue into what Steve has said. And he said, is it learning or ignorance when it comes to dumping stuff and not following the rules? Is it when it's a blatant disregard? What I always do is, if you see someone drop something, of course, when I was younger and I had less fear, or maybe I just had bigger cojones, I would challenge people to pick stuff up. To me, I find if you just do it in front of them and they see you do it, make them see you do it.
Yeah.
The message gets driven home, I think, in a more effective way.
Yeah, I agree. It's more sort of a little bit of shaming, right? Instead of confrontation and getting the hackles up and people angry, and then they're just going to do it out of spite. Yeah, there's a bit of education, a bit of role modeling, without necessarily belittling people or like I said, people don't necessarily know it. They're coming from other places. They just might not know. So, yeah, we're Canadians. We're always pretty polite, right? I don't think we should stop doing that.
No, and as I said, there is some incredible discussion, Lawrence, going on in the comments section. As always, I love this kind of interaction.
Excellent.
There's some great points. I'd love to share them all. I'd love to get them all, but I know you've probably got a snippet of news that you want to share with us. So here we go.
Shall we do it?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's get to the news then. Okay, here's something that we're going to start the news with. What does a boat trailer, a bait bucket, and a pair of fishing waders have in common?
They can transfer undesirable species.
You got it. All these things are conveying invasive species. Now, I think the reason I brought this up is because we are so conditioned to think about invasive species spread in two sort of fundamental ways. One is in the ballast of container ships entering the Great Lakes. They take water in some foreign port. They come up the St. Lawrence, they come into the Great Lakes, they dump that water out and they fill up with cargo and they leave. And 185 species and counting have been brought into the Great Lakes that way. And we know that. And we know, that pisses us off. Then we know about the Asian carp, that were brought into the United States to clean up ponds that were used for fish breeding, for fish farming, clear the water clarity, remove the, cut down on the amount of weed growth in those ponds with these different invasive, these different carp species, Asian carp species. And then there's a flood, a hurricane, and the ponds flood, and these fish, naturally leave to find better homes. And that was the Mississippi River, and they head up the Mississippi River, and now they're knocking on the door of the Great Lakes and coming into the Great Lakes. And that really bugs us. And we're thinking, man, you got to do more to stop that from happening. And we all feel pretty passionate about those two issues, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we know now we're starting to know that, hey, they want us to clean our boats. They want us to wash our waders. They want us to, check our minnow buckets and restrict where we can get our minnows and what kind of minnows we're allowed to use and where we can transport the minnows, if we can use them at all. In Quebec, you can't even use live minnows. In Ontario, it's getting tougher and tougher. It seems like, why are they picking on us? Well, if you check out the Bluefish Canada News and a new podcast we just popped up on the Bluefish Canada YouTube channel. So it's one we did in video, because we've got some great researchers and experts from the FishBrain app people that this researcher dug into the back door of the FishBrain app. 14 million people use that FishBrain app. And she dug into the GPS data of 250,000 anglers and 4 million of their catch logs, and came up with some pretty astounding information about anglers and invasive species. And I don't want to get into all the details here, because we'll be here for a while, but you check that out. It's all, the links are there in the Bluefish Canada News on Bluefish Canada. And this is, to me, why I'm bringing this up. To me, now the spotlight's on us.
Yep. It's so true. At the end of the day, I think the spotlight is always on us. We can ask and beg for better supervision, better policing, better management of our resources. But at the end of the day, we're the ones that are using it. And I think the onus, yes, to a large extent, when it comes to a money cost and factor, we have to shoulder a lot of that responsibility. So no, absolutely. Great point.
Yeah. We have to turn that ire on ourselves a little bit. And we don't see these things necessarily, right? It's not that obvious, right? There's not a giant Asian carp or, a giant container ship. It's not that obvious. It's just our boat trailer. It's our minnow bucket. It's our waders. But we need to get up to speed on this stuff, because, there's some problems, and apparently we're the source of the problem. And if you think, 80% of the people in Canada live in urban spaces. We fish around these urban bodies of water where there's probably invasive species already. And then we don't just stay in that one spot. We go next weekend, we go somewhere else, and maybe somewhere else. And then it spreads out, right? A day's drive, like a day's fishing trip and back and forth the same day. And then those people that live out in those areas, now they're fishing in water that it has invasive species, but they go off to other ponds and lakes, further out. And, it's just leapfrogging its way across Canada if we're not careful. It's this is becoming a real issue. And this researcher has found definitive proof on this. And now you can question the ethics of digging this data out from the FishBrain app. You can hate FishBrain, for sharing that information about your movements and where you fish and how, how it's been strung together in these ways to prove a hypothesis. But I just want to say, before you start to throw stones at this one app, think about all the other ways we allow our personal data to be used in ways that, that provides us with convenience, or just provides us with security. Like, your credit card, all of a sudden you're in a different city, and all of a sudden you use your credit card and you get a message. Hey, are you that person? Someone's trying to use your credit card in this other city. Is it you? And you think, oh yeah, it's me. Or maybe it's not you. And they cancel your card because someone stole it, right? That happens now. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways your location data, is being used to protect you, to make life more convenient for you. And now we're finding it's also being used to understand the spread of invasive species. So, yeah, don't be so quick to condemn some of these apps. I know it seems like, like, holy crap, do they really know that much about us? But apparently, there's not much you can do when you leave your house anymore that, is not being traced, right?
100%. We got time for one more.
Okay.
Words.
Oh, talking about your winter fest, that ice fishing CFN festival. This is fantastic, and we're using the MyCatch app, and this is a fantastic app that's doing great things for research across Canada. I know, and thanks CFNers for helping out with that. This is going to help, deal with biodiversity loss, to get the research that our scientists need to have to identify problems before they become problems. This is exactly what we need. When is things going a little south, and when is things going really well, so we don't need to put in crazy new rules because there's no problem here. This is the same. That app can tell us, and that research can tell us that as well. And then there's another one. The Clam Outdoors Clam Attack. That's happening on January 22nd, 23rd, I believe. It's an American/Canadian 2-day ice fishing tournament, and that's using the Donkey app. Fish Donkey app.
Fish Donkey, yep.
Yeah. So this is your CFN's not alone here, you guys. I mean, this Fish Donkey app is really popular in the United States, with a lot of tournaments being held with that Fish Donkey app. It's a very popular tool in the States. So, but I don't know if they have the support the research side of things like the MyCatch app does. So,
well, and yes, and Lawrence, to your point, when it comes to the MyCatch app, but of course there were some CFNers that had some issues with it, and some would say, well, you know what, for those people, why didn't you just abandon the use of the app? Yeah. Because this is something that I have wanted for so long, is that to bridge the gap between the creel samples that you anglers are going out faithfully doing, whether you look at it this way or not. You are going out and you are doing a study every time you catch a fish. Every time you go fishing, you're doing a study. And what I thought, at least my belief, is that we're losing. We're not capturing that kind of data. We're not capturing, I think, some of the most important hours on the water from some of you diehard anglers, that every waking moment you get a chance to get out and wet a line, you do so. Yeah. So the MyCatch app, dove headfirst into this. They looked at the same approach that I did, that they were going to try and bridge the gap and allow science to obtain their creel samples that they need. And of course, as you said, identify where there's some invasive species going on that they weren't aware of before. Maybe there's the anomaly that all of a sudden one is caught. Well, maybe we should monitor this body of water if more are caught. There are so many, intangibles that, you can't even discuss in an hour, let alone, a day with what goes on with the MyCatch app. But at the end of the day, those who are going to participate, there's incentive to do so with the Winter Fish Fest. Those who want to go back to where we started, which was with Facebook, there's a really cool twist. And as I said, in the coming weeks, we will get to that, as well as all of the information that Lawrence is going to share with us in 2023. And I know, buddy, you have got an encyclopedia stuff to share.
Well, I do my homework, so it's always fun to go out there and search and see what's going on in the world of fish and fishing and habitat and all that stuff. We call it Bluefish Canada for a reason, because it's about the water, it's about the fish. You got to look at both things, right? You can't have one without the other. And we need to take care of the water if we're going to have good fishing. And it goes hand in hand. So, we've got to be stewards of the environment. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
100%, buddy. Well, listen, as always, thanks for spending yet another Monday with us. And we look forward to spending even more Mondays throughout the course of 2023 and everything that you do with Bluefish Radio and Bluefish Canada. Lawrence, as I said, thank you for your time, buddy.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity, Scotty. Appreciate it. And have a great week, everybody. And be out on the ice soon, I'm sure.
Can't wait, dude. Can't friggin' wait.
Me too.
You take care, dude. All the best, my friend.
All right, man.
Peace. And we'll have Jason Barnucz up after this.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural, man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
Jason Barnucz, happy
hey buddy. What's happening?
New Year. Happy 2023. Hope you
Yeah.
have a great holiday, my friend. I know, you know what, we've been living vicariously through your family. We've seen you guys out in the hard water enjoying some ice fishing, but for some of us who have not had the chance yet, thanks for sharing your journeys.
Yeah, you know what, man. So I want to say, so right after Christmas, we got some cool days. It was even down here, it was minus 15, minus 12. And yeah, I actually found some safe ice within 45 minutes of home. And it was good to get out, even if it was just for a few hours one day. And then 2 days later, that ice was not safe anymore. So, but let me share a little. I'm gonna tell you a little story, Scotty. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, you guys see that?
We do now. Yep.
All right. So, this was the big weekend. This past weekend, Heather, my wife there, Stephanie, my daughter, and Trevor, my son, for those of you who don't know, we went to a cottage up in the Bancroft, between Bancroft and Haliburton, in that Wilberforce area. And it was actually for Heather's birthday weekend. So we said, let's do some ice fishing and some cottaging. So this is what we did. And we looked for ice. And you can see Trevor with the handy spud bar. And we woke up Saturday morning not expecting to see any ice, to be honest, Scotty. Now you can see the lake in the background. And I guess let me preface this. I'm telling you this story because this is what so many of us anglers in Southern Ontario are going through right now. Okay, so so everyone understands where this is. From my house, this is about a 4.5 hour drive to get up to this area, right? Not including stops. So there's Jason time, which is 4.5 hours, and there's Heather time, which is like 5.5 hours, because she likes to stop and have lunch and things like that. So,
well, she was the birthday girl, and Sonia, thanks for reminding us.
She is the birthday girl. She is the birthday girl. So I am the older one in the relationship. Likes to remind me of that. So anyways, so here we are Saturday morning, and this is what we found on most lakes that we went to in that area. Now, this is a small lake. This is actually the lake the cottage was on. It was a Airbnb. And it's a small lake. It's probably only 0.5 kilometer at its widest across. But you can see at the shore here, the shore ice is terrible. And it was like that everywhere because after all that cold weather, there was lots of rain up north. And so those who are watching understand these lakes had decent ice, but out in the middle, and I say decent in quotes because it wasn't great. And then at the shore, it was real soft and real dangerous at the shore. So you can see here in the next picture. So there's Trevor. That's at another lake with a dock. And this lake's actually stocked with rainbows. MNRF stocks it, as well as the Haliburton Sportsmen's Association. Scotty, I'm sure you're familiar with those guys up there. They actually run their own hatchery.
I love it. Love it.
So this is one of the lakes that they stock. And it wasn't safe. Like just to get on the lake, it's about 9 feet deep right off this dock. And there's just no safe ice to get on there. And then we drove around to the third spot and look at this. We saw a hole. So I said, okay, let's check this. So even though I see a hole, I got my picks on. I got my picks. I got my striker suit, flotation. I got my spud. There's Stephanie supervising in the background. She's actually carrying a scoop because on my scoop, I actually have a Sharpie marks for every inch. I have 6 inches marks on my scoop. So when I drill a hole, I can put my scoop in and I can measure my ice thickness. And I know that, I want to know that I have that sort of at least 4, if not 6 inches of ice. And when I got to this spot, Scotty, there was over 7 inches of ice in that hole. But it was very inconsistent, very little black ice, almost all white ice and layered. And as I spudded, water would come through, and I thought it was only maybe 4 or 5 inches. It was actually 6 to 7 inches. The water that was coming through my chisel marks was from those layers. So we did find some safe ice. I'll call it safe. Now, the girls don't have all the gear that we have to go out exploring on unsafe ice. Let's put it that way. So we didn't want to go too nuts, but the girls wanted to try ice fishing in this spot. We didn't catch anything. So there's the birthday girl.
Nice.
With her new fishing rod that was built by our friend Gord Trask at Get Fishing in Peterborough.
Nice.
That's his custom power noodle in pink, of all things.
Beautiful.
So she didn't get to catch a fish on it yet, but we'll take care of that soon. And then of course Stephanie wanted to give it a shot, and I have to show. Oh yeah. So where's this last picture? So there we are. That's the whole gang fishing. This is in Wilberforce. This is the general store in Wilberforce, Scotty. They have everything there, man. They have like grocery store, hardware store, souvenir shop, and there's a great diner across the road called the Algonquin South Diner. So if anyone's in Wilberforce, go enjoy yourself. Like we didn't get a lot of ice fishing in, but we had a great weekend up there, just touring around and checking things out. The only good ice we found was in our drinks, Scotty. Okay, so there we are at the bed and breakfast. I'm trying to keep this PG, okay, but there we are at the bed and breakfast in the hot tub. And on the Saturday night, it was beautiful. The moon came out, and that's that. So that was our.
Oh, we lost Jay. He clicked out. Unfortunately, he'll probably come back in real quick. But as I said, absolutely fantastic to see some of these shared family adventures, and we will be watching for them in the coming weeks, months, days, whatever you want to call it. This year, 2023, we're getting back to the focus on family, which is truly important when it comes to CFN, because that is our roots. That's our foundation. It's what we've been built on. So if you are alone, if you are a Barnucz or any other family, CFN, part of our CFN family that gets out there with their families, enjoys fishing, we're going to be watching for you. And if we do so, we will make sure to spice in the pot, if you will. Jay's back. He is.
My window actually crashed. I think the screen sharing didn't like it. So anyways, so that was our weekend up north. So that was a lot of fun. So,
dude, that moon in the background of that picture, holy smokes, was that bright?
Yeah, it was really cool. And you know what's funny is we had sun on Saturday, and I made a comment. I don't think I'd seen the sun in 2 weeks. Like we had the blizzard and then freezing rain and then rain, and it was just nice to get out and enjoy some northern scenery. There's lots of snow in the bush up there, but lots of snow melt going on. The roads are pretty clear up there right now, but definitely as you drive north, Scotty, you get north of Peterborough, up towards, and we were just basically, not far from Algonquin there. There's quite a bit of snow up there. It's nice, but and now I bet you those lakes would have been safe to get on probably by tomorrow, because it's minus 15 up there at night for the next couple of days. So
that's fingers crossed, and we hope again.
Yeah.
I've heard it. It's good as far north as Nipissing. I believe it's over Calendar Bay. I don't think you can get out into the main lake just yet, but there are areas, if you're willing to travel, that do have some safe ice. Mike Howard has asked this, and I should get to this. And of course, right off the bat, I apologize to anyone that we don't get to your message. We don't get to hear a hello or what have you. As I said, you are just as much as important to us as those that we do get to. But Mike brings up a great thing that is being discussed at great length right now when it comes to dams and fishways. What are your feelings in regards to this? Do you feel that we're destroying fisheries that may not come back, or do you think it's a much needed exercise?
It all depends on the river, Scotty.
Right.
And the factors. There's so many factors that play into this. So for example, there are some dams in Ontario that I believe are obsolete. They were built 100 years ago, 50 years ago for the purposes of water control, or even earlier for like a sawmill or a grist mill or something like that. And the dams serve no purpose anymore. Now we could have probably some healthier fisheries with dams removed. That's one river. The next river over could be a totally different story. There could be a massive round goby issue in the river. Do we want to take the dam down to let the gobies keep going upriver? There could be sensitive brook trout populations upriver. We might want to keep brown trout and steelhead out of those brook trout populations. I hate being prescriptive, but in the world of fisheries management, we really want to take our time and think about these decisions. 100%. I do believe in general, a lot of dams are obsolete. I think a lot of rivers in southern Ontario could really see more dam removal. I think we would see some better fisheries develop. Don't forget, when there's dams, you actually have a lot of issues with not just warming of the water, but you also have a lot of issues with the river becomes too wide. Rivers need sediment to live. The sediment's like the blood of the river. It's not just the water. And if we don't have sediment, it's called a sediment budget. If we can't maintain sediment load coming down the river, it throws off the whole ecology. And so there's not one answer here. You have to look at each river, each dam, and be prescriptive. And there's not a lot of money to do this. So if you're going to do it, I think you got to, put it where it's best, where the best impact could happen. Does that make sense, Scotty? We can't take every dam out, so you got to pick your battles.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, let's face it. In a lot of cases, they keep fish in, and obviously, as Jay mentioned and alluded to, it keeps undesirables out.
So Mike, your point about spawning areas, if you're going to take dams out, you need to make sure that you recreate some of those habitats that are lost. Here's the thing, guys. You have a dam that's created a reservoir above and down, and you'll see this on the Grand. Has anyone driven over the Grand River on the 403?
Yep.
Okay. It's way too wide because of the dam in Paris and the dam in Brantford. That river is way too wide for what it should be. It should be narrower. If it's narrower, you get more sinuosity in the channel. Okay. And you get that sinuosity, you get point bars and you get outside bends. That's your holding areas. Dams mess up sediment load. The rivers get too wide, you lose those holding areas. If you can remove the dams and recreate some of that lost river, the sine wave, that river habitat. Look, dude, I'm dancing. You gotta pay money.
I love it.
But but you need to charge extra, but you need those holding areas, and those happen only when you get those sine waves, those nice point bars and outside bends. That's the only way you're going to get it.
So, there has been a few that have been removed, and I'm so glad that Sparkus brought this up because it is so true. Walkerton's Dam came down a few years ago, and it helped in a huge way. As anyone who knows Walkerton's, you understand what was happening downstream of it, and now that that's gone, it has done exactly what Jay has just said, and it has livened up that river.
Well, and the thing is, though, is that it does upset some because you do lose holding areas for fish. Areas that were great holding areas are no longer great holding areas. Those fish just move. We've seen studies where steelhead on the Grand and steelhead on the Saugeen, dude, they don't even hold anymore. They just, the weather is right, the conditions are right, and off they go. Yeah. And they're not as catchable anymore. So from a fisheries perspective, it's good. But some anglers aren't happy with that because you're losing holding areas where traditionally it was easier to catch fish. Now they're not as common. So
the only concern I have with sediment, Jay, is as we talked about reproduction, of course, is when you get those rain events and you get a deluge, and of course it muddies up the river.
Yeah.
If you've just had a spawn, let's say our walleye have gone up, they've done their thing, you get all that sediment running down river. What it has a tendency to do, and in most cases, is it chokes those eggs that have stuck to these rocks, that have found the nooks and crannies that are now being filled up by mud. And unfortunately, it does a huge detriment to our fish culture. But again, what we have to do is we have to find a balance. How do we do that? Well, no one's talking to Mother Nature because she decides to dump on us whenever she wants to.
To be honest, Scotty, like we're talking about this, the S wave, the sine wave, right? So if you can recreate that in a river, the river maintains its own sediment balance.
Right.
So we've lost that. That's what causes these unbalanced sediment budgets is what we're talking about, Scotty, because you'll have areas of the river that has no sediment that needs some, because if you have no sediment, you lose areas for invertebrates to burrow and things like that, right? Then if you have too much sediment, you smother fish eggs and you smother invertebrates and other things like that. So it's unbalanced. If you have a natural river system that's uninterrupted, you maintain that sediment balance. And there's areas where that can be smothered, but the river has a way of cleansing itself on its own if we give it a chance. That's where Mother Nature is great. Unfortunately, when we have these dammed rivers, and we're seeing this more and more now with well, I don't want to get into climate change too much, but dude, the storms are more and more intense.
100%.
And so we're seeing more sediment washing into the rivers. And that's also a combination of intense storms, land use changes. We're going from forested, covered land to areas that's covered in asphalt, right? So everything is getting unbalanced in some of these places. And unfortunately, and if anyone's been on the news recently, and I don't want to get into it, but the issues with the Greenbelt in Ontario, I know we have to build houses and there's a housing crisis, but those Greenbelt areas protect the river downstream. So what happens in those headwaters at the Oak Ridges Moraine and in the Greenbelt, that impacts what's happening downstream, all the way to the mouth, all the way into Lake Ontario, for example.
Yeah.
And if we lose those greenbelt areas, we're impacting all those rivers along their entire course, not just in the greenbelt. So it's a slippery slope. And that is a pun intended on that.
100%. And, not to bring up, an evil, if you will, especially if you're someone that likes to manage water or you're in the business of managing water, but the almighty beaver, what dams do for our water and our water quality. I don't think we truly know the value that some of those dams produce for us. And again, not that I'm here to let out the beavers and let them do their thing, but unfortunately we look at beaver dams as a negative influence when truly they are great filters when it comes to keeping that sediment down. And
in some areas beaver dams are vital. Like they're vital parts of ecosystems, especially in the boreal forest. But in areas in Europe, beavers are an invasive species, Scotty.
Yeah.
And it's all about balance. Like we've been talking tonight about fisheries regulations. It's about balance. It's about just keeping the resource in check. And unfortunately, a lot of people out there think they know what's best, and there's a lot of bad information out there.
Yeah.
Scotty, like recently we've talked about what's happening in zone 15 with lake trout. And there's been proposed changes. It's not saying it's going to happen, but there's going to be some stricter rules on what lakes you can ice fish for lake trout in zone 15. And what's amazing is I actually read an interview today where, so a lot of places I've read, they don't like the changes because you're taking away opportunities for lake trout fishing from locals who've had it for a long time. I get that. I read an interview today from a resort operator in the Minden area who likes the changes because the local fishery, which has been a godsend to this individual running the resort, the lake trout fishing has plummeted.
Mm-hmm.
They're not making any more money. They want a better fishery to keep people coming back. People have stopped coming to that resort because of the bad fishing, because the lake trout numbers have dropped off.
And that fishery, as you know, Jay, has evolved. It's changed. One fish or one species of fish that was never prevalent when I was a kid up in that area was walleye.
Yeah,
there was the odd pocket here and there, but they're all through that Gull River system now, and it has switched, and it has provided anglers, even though it's considered evasive because it's not naturally there, for anglers, it's awesome because you're catching fish that you've never had the opportunity to catch before.
Yeah, and they've cut back on that, and they're going to cut back proposedly on the walleye stocking in those areas because the walleye aren't native to those areas, and there's been huge changes in lake trout stocks. Like even the introduction of rock bass has had incredible negative impacts, smallmouth bass on these lake trout lakes. Like there's some really cool, if anyone's familiar with that sort of Canisius Lake, Redstone Lake area up near the Halliburton Forest, there's genetically unique strains of lake trout up there that's been identified as genetically unique by John Castleman of all people, right? So John's, in Ontario, Canada, he's a fisheries god.
He is.
And I think there's just some really cool lakes up there that just need a little extra protection. And I know it might make the regulations a little more complicated, but you know what? We're okay with that. Like there's way tougher things out there. Like, dude, if you're going to build a house, Scotty, you're going to build a house.
Yep.
And we're talking about, like, I don't want to talk about the layman, but we need a certain size of a wire, a certain size of pipe. The pipe's got to be made of a certain material. The wood has to be a certain width, a certain length. The insulation has changed. We have to go from an R6 to an R60. I know I'm being very, very blunt here, but everything in life that we do has rule changes for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
And I think that slot limits and limit changes and season changes, man, that's easy to understand. I think it's honestly the people that choose not to understand it and the ones who complain are the ones who just don't want to bother. And George's data tonight hits home about non-compliance is very low with anglers. I think we need more COs. We need more enforcement if we can. but it is good news for people to understand that the compliance is really good out there. It truly is, but we could use some help. That's for sure. So
100%. And, to your point, of course, as Brad has mentioned, he'd like to see mandatory buffers between agriculture and rivers. Unfortunately, now it's almost, you can, I guess, to a certain degree, but what happens, it's almost the cart before the horse. Like these farms were segregated in such a way that now to go back and to create that, unfortunately, the farmers are going to have to give up perhaps maybe some land, and that's not going to be that desired.
Yeah, there's been some data. There's some data out there, research done on this, talking about having mandatory like 10 meter, 20 meter, 30 meter buffers along water courses. I'd like to see more of that. It doesn't always happen. But you know what? There actually are, in some of our official plans, and especially in urban areas in Ontario, buffers are encouraged. They're not enforced. They're not part of the official plan like a bylaw, but in most places it's encouraged, and it's not necessarily frowned upon. It's just there's not a hammer to make that happen. That's the issue, right? And it would be nice to have that all across these places, but we don't have that. But I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of people out there that really value these healthy ecosystems, these aquatic ecosystems, and they're working to maintain those. In fact, I'll tell you that a lot of the Greenbelt, I worked for a few years in the Central Lake Ontario area, so Oshawa, Whitby, Bowmanville, and I was the biologist for that area for 3 years. And one of the guys I worked with, his job was traveling around North Oshawa, North Whitby, North Bowmanville, like that Newcastle, Orono area, Scotty. And he met with landowners, and they bought land from them, and it was put into conservation trusts. Okay. And the joke I have with that is, if anyone watches Yellowstone, the conservation trust has caught a lot of issues on Yellowstone. If anyone watches that show. And it made me think about my time at Cloca, because when I was there, it was great because by buying it and putting it in possession of a conservation trust, you can't touch it. Like, even a green belt is a government regulation, but a conservation trust, it's like owned by an NGO.
Yeah.
You can't touch it. So by selling it off, and these farmers sold it, they got a good price for it, to be honest, at the time. And they sold it because the kids weren't farming anymore. And the parents or the grandparents who owned the farm, they didn't want to see it gone. And this went on quite a bit and still goes on. And it's wonderful to see. And I'm happy for programs like that, because when I see what's going on in the news, these things won't happen because of those places. So
100%. And that's one thing that I will say. You talk about a balance. At the end of the day, I would take 6 days a week and twice on Sunday the effluent that runs off a farmland than what runs out of a subdivision. And for the Bay of Quinte and everybody who has enjoyed that walleye fishery, it's the farms that are upstream of that Bay of Quinte that has made that such a productive fishery. And it will for some time, because let's face it, they're not developing in huge ways out that way. So we're going to see that fishery last for a very long time. But the nutrients that come from those farms, let's not disregard that. It comes in handy, especially when those eggs start to hatch and those fry start to get hungry.
And I want to comment on Marcus's comment here about the Thames River. I just saw it a few minutes ago. Yeah. So I get a lot of comments about the Thames River, especially below London. It's very muddy, and people think it's unhealthy because it's muddy. It's not. It's the local soils are clay based, so it looks muddy. The Lower Grand is like this too. A lot of the Grand River below Caledonia, especially as you get further down towards Cayuga, York, Dunnville, it's muddier as you go down because of the clay. The river's quite healthy. Large numbers of species in that river. It's quite the fishery, to be honest. So don't be fooled by a muddy river that it's unhealthy. It's all perspective, right? So those clay soils along the Thames, it just gives it that color, but it is as healthy as can be. It needs help. It's downstream of the City of London. Everything that gets flushed in the City of London goes down the Thames River through Chatham, right? But it's doing pretty good considering the pressure it's on. Absolutely.
That's good to know. Brad, Friends of the Grand have worked miracles by working with farmers and landowners. Absolutely. Some of the stuff that they've been able to do, some of the land they've been able to ascertain has been absolutely, it's almost mind-boggling that the farmers have worked like they have and have given up and understood the need to do so. So, yeah, Brad, great point that you bring up. And Bruce, you bring up a comment in regards to the rock bass. I would have to say I've grown up in that area. I have fished that area many years. Yes, rock bass are very, very prevalent. But I will say this, walleye love rock bass. So if you want a species of fish that are going to eradicate their numbers, walleye are definitely that fish. So let's keep their numbers up.
Yeah, I think for a lot of anglers who are frequenting that sort of Canadian Shield parts of Ontario, and I'm going to say like everything sort of north of the Kawarthas up to Algonquin and across both sides, eat some rock bass. Do us all a favor, eat a few rock bass. They're pretty tasty. They taste about the same as a pumpkin seed or a bluegill, and you're probably going to save a few fish. Right there, George. Get out of here.
Well, yes, absolutely. We've got lots of muddy rivers. The Abitibi is another one that's very muddy, but is also a fantastic fishery, as Terry has shared with his many exploit. But yes, we are blessed to have a lot of great fisheries and great waterways around us. We need to do our part to remain educated and hopefully do our part to keep them clean and full of fish. Jay, what have you got upcoming this week?
Dude, I have to find some place to ice fish, and I think I will find some places to ice fish. I won't tell anybody where because I don't want anyone following me, and it has nothing to do with keeping places secret. Yep. I just, when I have to go look for safe ice with a spud bar and floater suits and ice picks, I don't want people following me around, because if I run into a problem, I want it to be my problem. I'm being flat out honest with everybody. But I'm going to try this weekend to get out somewhere. I think there will be some safe ice in the Kawartha areas. There's also a lot of unsafe ice. So everyone, please be careful. I'll definitely be out trying to find something. And Scotty, I too bad about that event up on Cooch. So, but
yeah, I haven't got the official word from Jeff yet, but it doesn't look as if the huts are going to be going out that we'll be able to house an event. But that doesn't necessarily mean we're never going to be able to do it. As you mentioned, it is going to get a little bit colder. February is just around the corner. I know we're going to be busy with the shows, but it would be nice to get out at least once, no?
Yeah. Well, I was just talking with some buddies about that because the shows are ramping up. I've been on the phone and on email with, I'm going to be at the Toronto Spring Fishing Show, the Hamilton Boat Show, and then the Sportsman Show. Jeez. So there's 3 weekends out of 4 in a month span, right? So basically, starting this weekend, I have a month to get my ice fishing fix. And now here's the thing though, because I have to travel. Like if we get local ice, I'll get my fix because I can go out every night after work, right? But I don't see local ice happening around here for at least another 2 to 3 weeks. So all my ice fishing is going to basically be on weekends for the next little while. So hopefully, and I don't feel like burning that much gas, Scotty, but I might not have a choice. We'll see what happens. So absolutely, I'll be out.
Listen, thanks so much. Make sure you give Heather a kiss for us for her 18th birthday. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And thanks as always, spending your Mondays with us. And we look forward to another bunch of them in 2023.
Be well, everybody. See ya.
Take care, Jay. All the best, my friend. And that's our first show for 2023. We have lots of things that we have upcoming that we're going to be bringing to you, making available to you, perhaps maybe tasking you with some things to do in order to qualify for certain prizes. Again, we can't thank all of you enough for spending your Mondays with us as you do. George, thanks for just a plethora of information. We truly value your Mondays and your time that you come here and you educate us with a whole vast array of stuff. But again, keep it coming. Truly appreciate it. And of course, we appreciate all of you. I can't say enough about you. You guys are loyal. I'm forever there. I go to bat and war for all of you. Thanks for your support. Thanks for your time. And I look forward to spending more Mondays with you in the near future. All the best. Dave, take us away. Enjoy your week, folks.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.